Okay, I'm recording this meeting. Good evening, everyone. This is our Pikesville Revitalization Action Plan Prep Oversight Monthly Committee meeting. I am Josephine Selvakumar. I'm the Western Sector Lead Planner. So let's start with the meeting. So this is not something new. We have been discussing this. We have these subcommittees, the Economic Vitality, Design and Streetscape. And from the previous conversations, it came to our attention that infrastructure should be its own committee and not its own subcommittee and not be within Design and Streetscape. So we have this infrastructure subcommittee. I just highlighted that in red because that was something which came out of our previous discussion. And then we have promotion and marketing, organization and coordination. So I'm not going to go through the entire list again. We are running short of time. So we have like 1 hour now. So the game plan here is going to give 10 minutes for each subcommittees. So the plan was that the subcommittees meet before the oversight meeting tonight. So you all did a very good job. You did your homework. You all met before this meeting and you all have your ideas, which we are going to discuss shortly. So we can start with each subcommittee and we are going to give like 10 minutes and you discuss. And finally, I need 10 minutes to give other announcements. And I do have other county staff here joining with me. I have Michelle from OCE, Gane, our division chief, and Amy Menzer, who's the special project assistant. She will elaborate more on the announcement, which I'm going to give towards the end. So to start with, let's start with the design and streetscape. The names I have highlighted are the representatives which you all picked. So Deb Patterson is the co-chair and Kristen Ziminski is the chair. So this is something the group came up with. And I have infrastructure with design and streetscape here, but then the consensus is infrastructure is going to be a separate subcommittee. So I still have 10 minutes left for infrastructure and 10 minutes separate for design and streetscape. So I'm going to be stop sharing and sharing my screen. This is very high level. I'm going to allow the chair and the co-chair to talk about the design and streetscape outcomes. So this is very high level, which the goals which you have focused on, goals 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. And there were talks about clean and green and armory revitalization. And again, I want to hear from you. This is just the very high level bullet points. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to design and streetscape representatives. And I want to hear from you and the group. And please update the entire group on what you all have discussed. I'm going to stop sharing here.
Okay, so I'll take it, Josephine. Thank you. I'm Kristen Ziminski. I'm the chair of Design and Streetscape, and Debbie is the co-chair. So we, as a group, did decide that infrastructure should be another subcommittee. Parking is a big thing to tackle, and that's but we also, as we found, a lot of things are intertwined. So we went through each goal and some things that were, twin committees. That's what it went through. But we went through each item on the goals. I can rattle some off. What we wanted to do after that was also prioritize. Now we did not get time to do that, to pick the ones we want to tackle first or the low hanging fruit or something like that. But we did divvy them up, what's under infrastructure, what's under streetscape, and what's out of our purview. So under goal 1, there is 1B and 1, let's see, design and streetscape. Strategies to make a designation place to live. We would be a part of that. Identify locations for public art and facilitate and design and install. Under goal 2, identify where improvements were most impactful and obtain cost estimates and apply for state funding. That's also under us. And landscape installations and improvements. Goal 4, transportation and parking. That was a lot of infrastructure, which is evaluate traffic and parking issues, work with the state and explore installation of traffic islands, develop a circular system, like a circulator, system. Now, 4D, remove unused parking meters. That might be the streetscape. We put that under us because that might just be already they're defunctional and now it's just a matter of they're unsightly. Free parking finding way pass. That's more of signage, parking signage. We thought that was a streetscape issue. Improve lighting on parking lots, streetscape. The one that's in conjunction is evaluate, develop interconnected walking and biking trail systems throughout the Pikesville CRD area. The other one that's in conjunction is hire a consultant to further develop that trail network. For infrastructure, this is still under goal 4, evaluate pedestrian and bicycle improvements and explore moving utility lines that are and poles that are behind along DeRizio Road. And then work to remove no left turn restrictions. That's also infrastructure. No left turn restrictions, right? Goal 5, update design guidelines and evaluate zoning. That was for 5A and 5B is us, evaluate effectiveness of current revitalization and design guidelines and hire a consultant. Goal 6, litter and dumpsters. Now could be a clean green committee. Clean green is also another thing that seems very intertwined in a lot of what we do and what other people do. So we didn't just do a clean green another subcommittee. We just thought that would best suit the thoughts what we're doing now. So goal 6, litter and dumpsters. 6A through 6E, additional trash cans. Coordinate with the Baltimore County Department, storm drain stenciling, dumpster screening, and cleanup days. That's all under us, streetscaping. Goal 7, commercial properties maintenance enforcement. That's another one. So one was identify issues. That would be streetscaping because we could, yeah, that would be another twin one that might be economic as well. Let's see. And then work with property business owners, if required, escalate. That might be, that's a little bit of both, I think, of a twin, us and economic. Goal 9, plan for identified opportunity sites. That is, a lot of that is about the Armory. So that's another thing that, the Armory has its own thing going on, but also we should be keeping that in mind. We should be working with them. And another thing is support that use and working together rather than against each other. 10, obtaining state design districts. That's evaluate what kind of district do we want to be in, arts and entertainment or a main street, perhaps an affiliate, and develop a roadmap to get there. And that should be, that's the gist of it.
Thank you, Kristen. So,
Josephine?
sure.
Is there any time left over for Kristen?
Yeah. Until Michelle says time's up, you can talk.
We have 5 more minutes left.
I just wondered if because Deb put together wonderful minutes and before she talked about the goals, she had like 7 statements of agreement or something that I thought were really excellent. If there's time to share that. Do you know what I'm talking about, Kristen?
I'll say those. So these were,
I don't know if you want to include that or not, but I thought it was great.
We got time. Why not? So the open-ended topics that we discussed, just about the budget and things like that, but the agreements that she put in. Infrastructure will be spun off as a separate subcommittee. Neville Jacobs is the chair, and then that subcommittee would include Neville, Howard Needle, and Jaron Scholl. Second agreement, design and infrastructure will figure out how to maintain a close working relationship. Agreement 3, suggest to Pratt that all subcommittees should follow a clean and green mindset just as an entirety. Keep that in mind for everyone. Number 4, the armory should be an integral part of the planning for prep. This is, and I'm sure a lot of people share that sentiment. Just always keep that in mind, integral part of it. Agreement 5, making the armory integral with CRD, the commercial the main district, is what will make Pikesville special and impact funding. Number 6, streetscaping should be coordinated with the Pikesville Armory Foundation to ensure visual consistency that reinforces a unified Pikesville identity stretching from Slade to Old Court, because it's more than just one spot. And then number 7, should the library and senior center move to the armory, the area between Sudbrook Lane and Giant is a priority for redevelopment. Our subcommittee's efforts in that area should keep that in mind while allocating resources.
Okay, is there anything else, Kristen?
Thank you.
Nope, I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I did receive these minutes from Deb as well. Like Ruth said, it's clearly laid out, and you have touched all the goals that you can pick for the streetscape, all the streetscape improvements. A couple of things I just want to address is that something which I heard from other groups as well. Like you mentioned, the Pikesville Armory's sentiment on how that should be integral with the perhaps actions and goals, which it is and which is in the action plan. I did also receive an email that there should be to know who is the contact from the Pikesville Armory Foundation, so that you could get to know what's happening with the Pikesville group, I mean the Armory. I do know there are different representatives from the Armory Foundation in this group. So I did email, what's her name again? Shelley?
More.
Yeah. Yeah, to find out like, so what do, I'm getting these requests from the group. So is there any, I do know you need a point person. So I asked her, I told her, and then I emailed her, and then I heard, this is what she told me, is that, I mean, if you all want, they can give you a written update on the armory every month if that is something the group needs. Armory Foundation can do that. This is what I heard from Shelley. I'm just letting you know so that you know what's happening and you have this as an integral part so both the groups know what's going on.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with that then. So let me make a note. So you will get from Shelley a written update every month on the what's happening with the armory, on the armory status. Let's say that.
I think if I could, Josephine,
Sure.
yeah, that would be a great thing for the Armory Foundation, somebody to kind of present their reports to us. That would be great to hear from them, and then we can weigh in at that time.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm on the Armory Foundation board, so I'm happy to help with that too, if you want.
Yes, and Larry is the organization committee as well, which can work with all of the subcommittees, right? So that's one of your goals. So that works too. But I reached out to Shelley. This is what I heard. So she's happy to give a written update every month. I will get that. I will share with you all, and you have Armory representatives here as well, so you can also speak for the report. Does it make sense?
Yes, I would look forward to those reports. Yeah.
Okay, so
And it's been 10 minutes, Josephine.
okay, another quick thing that with this one, see, I'm going beyond my time. Quick thing is that there was question on if the funding would expire, but that was one of the things that was put together. I just wanted to touch that, let you know the open-ended questions about the budget which you had. For the what I heard is that for the countywide improvement funds, there is no expiration date, but the expectation is to spend it as early as possible. So
What fund? I'm sorry, Josephine. What funds was that?
the countywide improvement funds, So,
CIP, right?
yes, the expectation is for you to spend it soon, but there's no date on it, like,
And how much money is in that for Pikesville?
what's it?
How much money is that for Pikesville?
So from the previous thing, I'm trying to pull my numbers. Hold on a
Thank
second.
you.
So the CIP funds were, the total funds were $235,000, and approximately $151,000 were spent on benches. And then the county allocated funds for FY 2023 is $100,000. So we have these two amounts, but we can talk about it in detail towards the end. So let me move on to the infrastructure group. I think that is chaired by Neville.
Mhm.
I will turn it over to Neville to give update on the infrastructure.
Okay. Basically, we had a meeting with with both groups, and we proposed setting up an infrastructure section or subcommittee, and we have two other members of that, and that would be Howard Needle and oh dear, I don't have
Karen Shaw.
That's right.
Karen.
Jaron Shaw. And so we have three people, and we will move ahead with that. We've identified a number of items from the minutes that we sent out. A number of items we're going to work with, and so we'll be having the two committees that will be working hand in hand, and one will be concentrating on the short-term items or relatively short-term items, and the other will be, the infrastructure will be looking at the long-term items.
What are the short-term items, if you could, Neville? If you could.
Okay, there is the minutes. I think, Josephine, you were sent the minutes, weren't you?
I
go
got
over.
the design and streetscape minutes, and
Yeah, that's the minutes covers both groups.
Exactly. So
Okay.
both, it was nice little table and it's divided up. I can quickly go rattle off what the infrastructure is if you would like.
That would be
That's great.
great. Why don't you take the lead on this, Kristen?
Okay, because
And identify the parts that you're going to be handling and the parts that infrastructure will be handling.
Just do that?
I
I
did.
thought we,
I
I
did,
thought
but
we
I'll-
just did that.
I'm thinking I can just say the infrastructure parts. That might be so it's isolated.
Okay.
Because we kind of had a joint hybrid meeting anyway. So this is just infrastructure. Goal 4, transportation and parking. Continue to evaluate parking, traffic and parking issues. Work 4B, which is work with state to develop improved pedestrian crosswalk safety. Explore the installation of traffic islands and develop a circulator system. 4H, evaluate, develop interconnected walking, biking trail system throughout the Pikesville and residential areas, expanding with understanding that grant funds may not cover. Hire a consultant to further the trail network. Evaluate pedestrian and bicycle improvements in existing guides. Explore moving utility lines and poles to behind buildings along DeRizio Road. Work to remove no left turn restrictions and signs. Explore adding a 5th turn lane at these intersections. And support the reuse of the armory. Yeah.
Quick question for you, Kristen.
Mhm.
I noticed that the relocation of the utility poles you mentioned, and certainly that has been a vision of mine for now 40 years, or damn close to it. But at any rate, should we limit that kind of exploration to just behind DeRizio Lane? If you'll notice, there is a lot of sidewalk, and I'm going to guess at between Sudbrook and McHenry and even Old Court.
Mhm.
And that's where some benefit really can possibly be derived of moving those poles and allowing those sidewalk. The whole thing about those poles is it might allow those sidewalks to be indented. And if those sidewalks were to be indented for parking, you could provide a left turn lane in a variety of different locations. There were two, if I could, I hate to do this, but in the long ago planning and thinking, there are two elements to those poles: the visual pollution and the potential for moving them, or in fact undergrounding them, which may not be possible. But anyhow, the potential of moving those and then providing that space as left turn lanes at various locations. So I would like to see, I hate to butt in, but your role, maybe your committee's role, the infrastructure role of expanding that scope of your exploration of relocating utility poles more than just Doricio Lane.
No, I think that's a very good point. And I do believe that I think everyone on these teams are very fluid, dealing with Neville and Howard and Jaron. They have the greater goal in mind. So in this case, it would be moving the utility lines and poles. And they're very creative people and not necessarily boxed into, oh, it must be along Doricio Road. I think
Great
they're
to
very
hear.
open to ideas, and I appreciate that. That's great.
I'd love to walk the street with you, and I'm sorry about that. I'd love to walk Pikesville with you and point out some of those locations just for a physical description. Love to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, the interesting thing about the these longer term plans is that they kind of work with each other. They actually influence as you move the light poles out of the way. You're able to broaden the road, which adds the fifth lane, which adds the possibility of putting the green traffic islands down the middle of the road. So all of these things work together very, very nicely. And I think that is the objective. If we can kind of integrate everything together, that makes for a far more workable plan than just taking these as isolated items.
Very well done. Very well put, Neville. You're the best.
Yes, Ruth, go ahead.
Is this a time where we can make a comment?
Sure. Anything related to infrastructure, design and streetscape, go ahead, because it's your time.
So I know that the plan that Neville has laid out includes a green median strip, and it sounds great, but and I want to speak out for my hope that the infrastructure committee will also explore the possibility of bike lanes and figure out what is the highest priority. Is it possible to do both? If we only do one or the other, median strip or bike lane, what is it that Pikesville needs more and what's best for the traffic patterns? So I just want to make sure that bike lanes continue to be part of the discussion.
Hey, Ruth, this is Jaron. I can assure you I'll make sure that bike lanes are part of the discussion.
Oh, yes. I didn't know you were on the call. You're anonymous, right?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm actually in an airport in California.
Okay, I saw that note. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as a matter of fact, we were very pleased that Jaron is on this.
That is dedication. Dedication, Jaron. I'm impressed.
Yes, Jaron has been very active in focusing on bike lanes, and I think having him on the committee will be very, very helpful. We have to see what's practical, what is helpful, and these are all things that we need to consider. I think they are very, very important factors. And we've done some studies to take a look at what is possible And I think that we should add these bike lanes as an important consideration. Where they will go, we don't know. I think that's one of the challenges that the committee will have, is to figure out what we can include in this that will enhance the attractiveness and desirability of this as a shopping center. And I think these are all things we have to take into consideration.
Thanks, Neville. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks for giving the infrastructure update. And I do agree with your pointers. And it's not just for the design and streetscape and infrastructure. Something I would be telling towards the end is that we have to narrow down and pick priority projects. And we should have at least 2 top priority projects for each group, each subgroups, so that on the whole, we'll have a list of 10 projects, and it'll be easy for us to work through narrow down through that list. And it's all, I mean, you're all coming up with the right ideas, and it's all in the action plan. You're all trying to narrow down based on your subcommittees, which is great. But then we had to narrow down to the priority projects, which we can talk towards the end.
Okay, Josephine, I'd like to mention that we need allies in all of these activities. And one of the allies that we have at the present time is Lisa Belcastro, who is a state delegate. And she is very keen on the items that we have in the infrastructure society, in the infrastructure subcommittee. The problem that she has at the moment is that she is in a contested election, a primary election, and that will kind of tie her up until July. So we have a little bit of a difficulty in this area, because if I had my druthers, I'd be going out to talk to the State Highway Administration right off the bat. I have met with Lisa and her chief of staff, and I think we've got a good understanding of where we want to go on this. But I'd like to make sure that we have her on board, because I think she can bring the support of the state government on the State Highway Administration. So I think that will help us considerably in the future.
Can I expound on
Wait,
Neville?
I just want to say it's been past 10 minutes. Like Neville started to talk right at the 10-minute mark. So it's time to move on.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank
Neville,
you.
I can pass along a recommendation for you to facilitate that.
Go,
I will. We're
Okay.
time's up.
by all means.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Neville. I do know Delegate Lisa's interest in the infrastructure subcommittee and what you mentioned, so that's noted. Thank you, and I would like to keep moving to the economic vitality, and that is chaired by Mel.
Thank you, Josephine. I'll try to be a little concise. I don't think it needs a whole lot of explanation. I'll just go over what the committee, I sent you kind of full minutes, and I'll try to be concise and just describe what the committee's consensus was of which goals we think fall under our bailiwick, so to speak. And they are 8, continue to evaluate the relocation of the Pikesville Library and or Senior Center. The Pikesville Armory should be explored as a priority location, and that's under the plan committee. Goal 9, develop a community-driven plan for identifying, this is where the real action is, identifying opportunity sites. It lists a variety of sites in 9A, 9B, 9C, 9D, and of course, 9E, 9F has to do with a lot with the police, state barracks, state police barracks. That is also worthy of pursuing. Goal number 10, this is critical, evaluate the possibility of Pikesville obtaining arts and entertainment districts. I will add to that, this arts and entertainment district, I know most people are not greatly familiar with it, but it can be a huge boom. The first arts and entertainment district has been established in the Catonsville area, and that's already produced a lot of positive results. There are about 24 of these throughout the state. Baltimore County finally got its first one in Catonsville, and we think that designating a certain geographic area within and about Pikesville produces an awful lot of development potential around arts. And as a matter of fact, County Executive Oshesky has more than once mentioned to me he wants to see a Pikesville Arts and Entertainment District, which will include the Armory as part of that Arts and Entertainment District. So that's one of our goals. And goal number 11, finance program, redevelop the historic Pikesville Armory in accordance with the mission statement established by the Governor's Commission to study the future of the Pikesville Armory Committee. And of course, this is the gem, this is the cornerstone, this is the magnet that will transform all of Pikesville into a competitive venue. 3 other additional items on the goals list. If we look at 1F, develop and coordinate community-friendly events in the Pikesville CRD and explore the activation of the Armory frontage for outdoor activities. Why this can fit into economic vitality, of course, once we draw people into events focused on the Armory, that brings potential customers into the Pikesville commercial corridor. And that is a wonderful economic stimulus. Identify goal G, 1G, identify locations where public art, mural sculptures, painted hardscapes would be feasible and a benefit to the commercial district. The Armory should be explored and given special consideration. So that, again, this artwork, it has been demonstrated as a valuable and successful economic development tool. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of locations all over the country. Wynwood Walls, Laguna Beach, Boynton Beach, many, many other ones. There's one at Gaithersburg. Even closer to home, we have a tiny one up in Bel Air where they painted garage doors and serves as a bit of an attraction for folks to, again, get out of their house and go shopping in Pikesville for other things. So that artwork has been proven to be successful in generating economic activity. Goal 1H, in fact, to commission artists to design and install a public art project. The Armory should be explored and given special consideration. Those garage doors in the back of that Armory property, there are 90 of them. They are approximately 9 feet by 12 feet. I could get them painted with the go-ahead in about 6 months with professionally artists to do beautiful murals, again, serving as an attraction to Pikesville and to particularly specifically community events in and around Pikesville. I would urge you just to look at, for a little bit of visual, there's a YouTube called Paper and Glue. It is about this international artist who finds walls and venues and takes photographs and puts them up with paper and glue on these venues, and they attract people from all over the region. And that could be done over those garage doors. You don't necessarily need all 90 of them, but you need a critical enough mass to serve as an attraction, such as Wynwood Walls and those other venues that I mentioned. So I think that's the full kind of real concise report from the subcommittee.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks for your update. I just need to add a couple of things. It's good that you have pulled all these pointers for economic vitality from the action plan. One thing with the arts and entertainment district is that that is something which I don't see happening now or right away. That is something the committee can look into down the lane. So right now it's the time for you to look into now that you have the sustainable community action items to look into. It is it would be good to take one step at a time. So right now the group is working on the Main Street group kind of setup, like how it has all these subcommittees. So it's good that you are working on the sustainable committee action items and then can look into the Main Street affiliate or Main Street down the lane and then go towards the arts and entertainment, because for the arts and entertainment district, which I agree with all the art stuff which you're talking about, I totally agree on all those things. That is something which has to involve conversation from it should involve conversation and come from the administration. I do understand what you said about the cadence. Well, I in fact I was District 1 planner until last week. I just got a new planner taking over District 1. So I worked on the Catonsville Arts and Entertainment District designation. So I know the amount of work and different players involved. So Catonsville is the first arts and entertainment district in the county. So they had the sustainable community designation for years, and it's called the art district, but they didn't have things revolving around that. And that's when they went for arts and entertainment district after doing so many other projects. And then they had the Baltimore Arts Guild, who took the responsibility to work with the state and with the county to get that designation. So I'm not saying it's not something that can't happen. It can, but it can happen down the lane. Just wanted to let you know
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure that's a longer term. I wonder if you, Josephine, you mentioned the Baltimore Arts Guild. Of course, Howard and I were at the genesis of them attempting to get this Arts and Entertainment District designation, and we were glad to serve on their committees. And that Baltimore Arts Guild designated a variety of different localities that the Baltimore County Arts Guild would be assisting in, and Pikesville is one of them. We all agreed that Catonsville would be the first one, so
Right.
we're delighted to see that, and we certainly look forward to their assistance. Secondly, I would appreciate perhaps maybe a white paper, not that lengthy, but some kind of dossier of what's going to be required of pursuing that arts and entertainment district designation in the future. Of course, it has to get state approval, and Johnny Oshesky was extremely helpful in getting the Catonsville Arts District designated finally. So I would look forward to some of that information. Is that possible?
Yeah, I can always share the information what Cadence had and did. Definitely can do that.
Yeah, what Pikesville would have to go through to work on that long range plan, that arts.
Excuse me, Mel, if you're interested, there's nothing that Josephine really has to supply. It's all listed in tremendous detail. I think it's on the site of the Maryland State Arts Council, but you just have to Google Arts and Entertainment District, Maryland, and you will see exactly, it's like step by step and in tremendous detail. And it would be reinventing the wheel, to list that or provide it again. And, that is something we are working toward long term, but we have very little history right now. Catonsville had like 20 years of history of, community murals and music stores and concert series and just all kinds of things. And of course, that's our goal, but we have to meet all of those benchmarks, and they're all listed in great detail
And
already.
I will look forward to us meeting those benchmarks. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's been
one
10
other
minutes.
Okay, see, sorry, I just want to give me 2 minutes for after every group's update. So I just want to let you know that not just for the economic vitality, for all the groups to think a little more of smaller picture too. Like it's not all about like the big redevelopment sites, but also uh, focusing on the businesses in the CRD, how you can bring in the business owners to the table, what can we do to improve the businesses, how can we get those businesses to take advantage of the CRD programs and the other programs, the neighborhood business programs the state DHCD offers. So those are little things we can start looking into, because we can check those items. So businesses are main for the economic vitality group. So there are certain things which if we focus on, we can easily check those items. So just want to put it out there. I know
Absolutely.
we are running out of time, so I will keep moving.
Just one last point. You mentioned business owners are part of this. The property owners are the real driver. I just want to make sure that we're all aware of that. That's who drives this. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. And who's that? It's a phone call. I want to make sure if Harvard is here. He was trying to log in. He had some issues. So I don't know. Is the 84 number, is it Harvard? Is that you? Okay, could be. Okay.
Everyone is muted. Howard might not know how to unmute himself.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Let's keep moving. So moving on to the next group, I'm going to go to the organization committee, and this is chaired by Larry.
Good evening, everybody. So Michelle Stephen Bowley, who's another high employee, and I met last week to talk about the goals. Lynn is also on the committee, and she chimed in via email. So our charge as a committee, and Michelle, please, if I miss anything, you have anything to add, chime in. Our charge is to create a strong foundation for a sustainable revitalization effort while cultivating partnerships and community participation. And what we found is this charge really flows throughout most of the goals in the plan and supports a lot of the work of the different committees. So we didn't pinpoint any one specific goal from the plan, but came up with 2 goals that tie a lot of the work together. So goal 1, we have as tentative goal 1, develop and recommend governance guidelines to the oversight committee and support their implementation. So this would include governance recommendations like the decision-making process for the oversight committee, subcommittee member recruitment, guidelines for how subcommittees share information with the oversight committee. And again, I'm going to stress this is just recommendations, and it would go to everybody for review if this is something that people are open to. We also thought it would be a good idea to identify where subcommittee work overlaps and how subcommittees function as part of the overall oversight committee, especially around supporting coordination and collaboration across the subcommittees to avoid duplication of efforts. This is most critical in terms of marketing and outreach because their charge is to cultivate partnerships and help with community participation, but really most, if not all of the subcommittees have to do community engagement, cultivate partnerships, engage with the community. So we thought it would be a nice place in our committee to help with that coordination and information sharing across the committees. We also put down developing a unified community engagement strategy, which again would flow throughout all the committees, and we would definitely do this in close coordination with marketing and anyone else that wanted to be part of that. But of course, it would all be reviewed and by the oversight committee and approved. And then we thought it would be good to have a process to prioritize projects and prioritize how funding, when we have the current funding and future funding, how it's allocated to various projects in the future, because that's a big one. Goal 2 is to identify and recommend sustainable funding strategies to the oversight committee. And because their charge is to create a strong foundation for a sustainable revitalization effort, of course, fundraising and sustainable fundraising and funding is critical. Without going into details, some potential strategies we could consider are investigating foundation grants, possibly corporate sponsorships, creation of a revenue authority or a CDMA or a special benefits district. And that's pretty much what we talked about. Anything to add, Michelle?
No, that was pretty comprehensive, Larry.
Sure, Kristen.
Larry, I do see Kristen's hand.
Yeah. Hi, Larry. I'm glad you're on organization. I'm so glad you're part of this. What everything you said is fantastic. It's great to have just that overlying just guidance of where things are going. When we went through our list at our meeting, there was a nice glaring chunk or task that we were like, oh, Larry and organization would be fantastic for this. And that was there's a lot of the parking, there's a lot of restricted parking. And if there was a way to get the restricted parking not restricted so that it was all free and all open to everyone. It's a very difficult, but could be a very but achievable thing. And if it did, I think that would open up a lot of stuff. That seemed like a very organization thing. It overlaps infrastructure a little bit because it is parking, but it was more, I think, in wheelhouse. That could be an achievable goal that would really help the parking situation and not cost a lot of money. It's already parking we have, just not restricted.
I'll take a moment to congratulate Larry on a tremendous effort. I'm going to sidetrack to what Kristen just said. She's absolutely correct. And this kind of ties to what Larry was talking about, this overlap. Economic vitality can be driven by structured parking. If you can come up with a plan that has free, Kristen, structured parking, that the Revenue Authority of Baltimore County will put the upfront money up to build the garage. Then they lease spaces on a formula from the property, to the property owner rather. Property owner pays essentially the vigorish, the carrying cost, the building cost of those parking garages. What the property owner gets is increased developable property because now he's built his parking up and he gets land space to add commercial leasable property. That is the potential trade. That is the model that was used in Bethesda. The property owners proposed developing property that was essentially parking. And the county, Montgomery County, funded upfront the building of those parking structures. And that allowed for what became Bethesda. Now, we'll never accomplish what Bethesda became, but that model is there. So that ties together this thought that you expressed about unrestricting the property. And if you ever go to Bethesda, there's no restrictions on that, unrestricted the parking. There's no restriction on the parking. Everybody parks for free, particularly on the weekends. And it generates a lot of activity. So that's where it ties together. And that's what Larry was speaking of. And so, Larry, and to you, coordinating subcommittees, how do you see that happening? What's the logistics of that?
That's the big question, right? We didn't have time to go there yet, but I mean, to begin with information sharing, of course, we're doing this information sharing during the oversight committee, but it's possible there could be some more support for that across the committees since there's only so much time in these meetings to do that. I think the marketing, community engagement, community outreach is probably the biggest need right now. And that simply would be, again, collecting the information, but it may necessitate, I hate to say any spin-off meetings, but a spin-off meeting or two to share what we're looking to do around community engagement, participation, partnerships.
Well, aside from the community, the participation amongst committees, I see, and Kristen made this point, for example, while streetscape parking has divided up two committees, the part that parking play and traffic plays in economic vitality. That immediately jumped out to me when you said overlap. So how do you see that kind of, or is that for another day?
I guess it depends on how much time we have left.
Yeah.
In my 10 minutes.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. I probably can't put it together, the strategy, in 2 minutes, but
Right,
I definitely welcome talking about it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could add, especially since the conversation is driven along parking. I'm sure you all know that is a study which is done. which is there in the parking in the Pikesville Action Plan website. So that has an inventory on different timings, what it's done, and the plan is split into different quadrants, and the study is done, and it talks about all the fragmented parking lots behind the retail establishments and other parking lots, the shared parking and what. So those that inventory is already there. So what you can do is maybe look at the entire boundary map and pick a quadrant from that, which you think is the priority, and look into the parking lot assessment and analysis, which is done, and maybe pick a couple of, to narrow down to start with a quadrant and pick a lot, and then take your, might be the first step to do, to start with that. Something you can think of. And again, coming to the other point of organization committee has a little bit of economic vitality and other groups, ideas and action plans with them. I certainly agree that organization committee can work with other subcommittees as well, because you would be dealing a little bit of parking, a little bit of businesses, and a little bit of streetscape improvements. So it depends on the time you can allocate to sit in different subcommittee meetings. So it is all up to your subcommittee on, I know that one group met in person, the other groups met virtually. So if it is, it all depends on the time you have, so you can sit in different subcommittees to help them and strategize that. Just something I want to throw it out there. So to keep the ball rolling, we have promotion and marketing. And that is chaired by Ed.
Yes, good evening. I'm sorry I was a few minutes late. Heidi Bell, Beth Rango from Greater Baltimore Chamber, and myself had a meeting last week to discuss our goals. We had some issues with the marketing committee in terms of vision for the plan, not knowing really what we are marketing, basically, and where budgets are going to come from. We did talk about great possibility and also Main Street model, which Pikesville is not a Main Street, and would have to become one to get dollars from that. So we're really trying to reach out to determine what our first marketing goals would be. And Larry brought up a couple points in terms of community outreach, organization, marketing those ideas. Yes, but none have really been set in place. There's not really a lot of events going on in Pikesville right now. So dollars to be spent in terms of our marketing goals are really not there. We kind of talked about what we would do. You know, we really would need some professional help in terms of marketing. And I've reached out to you about the county, what would be provided in terms of marketing along with our goals, what funding there would be. So I know budgets would have to be, first of all, put in place, but we're not sure what we're budgeting for. What is the marketing? You know, what is this is only beginning stages, and just to spend money in marketing, we don't feel it would be fruitful. So we might be a little amateur about this, but we want to achieve the goal, but we're not sure what the true goal should be right now for us. We see the long term, but not the short term. If Heidi has any other comments, please feel free to join.
Ed, you summed it up very well. As all the other committees take shape and the oversight committee prioritizes the actions and the use of these funds, that's when marketing and promotions and the like comes in. I think that we feel strongly, the three of us, that we're not marketing experts, and that someone of that caliber it's already in the action plan, a suggestion for funding for a marketing and branding consultant is going to be necessary, probably sooner than later. We have asked the chamber has done some extensive research along this line over the past few years. So we've asked the chamber for some guidance and recommendations on budgeting and the like, since the expertise sits there within the chamber and some of the work has already been done. So we'll keep you posted on when that's available and submitted to Josephine to at least get us started. It sounds like we have a little less than $200,000 to spend, so 183,000 will go very, very quickly, depending on what this oversight committee suggests that we tackle first. So we don't want to go headlong in and have a lot of work and volunteer time happen with any of the committee members, and you potentially spend money or commit money that just isn't available. So we're looking to the chamber and have asked the chamber for some guidance along that line, since some of their work had already been done previously over the past year or two in the procurement of some of these funds. So we're hoping that we'll get some good advice and guidance from that direction.
Oh, that's fine. I understand. I agree. I know Ed and I exchanged emails. I understand where you are with the marketing. First, we have to identify the projects, and we have to get started with the projects, and you then come along when we are in this process, or you come after that to do promotion and marketing, and that you have joined hands with the chamber is also another good thing for marketing and promotion. And like I was telling Ed, from the county side, we can help to amplify the efforts. Like if you have any social media presence, or if any of your subcommittees are posting something based on the projects identified, not only just chamber, other subcommittees. If you have, I know people are from Armory Foundation or Thousand Friends or the Chamber or whatever groups. If you have Facebook thing and page, or you post something about this prep action items or about what you're going to do, we can see what county can repost that. We can help do that. So I think it's good to start with. And once we have projects and when we are up and running, we can think more along the we can think more of pushing the marketing and promotion.
And if I may interject and kind of extend on that, Josephine, I see the marketing and promotions committee working very closely with the organization committee. So Michelle and Larry, and once that infrastructure is in place and how the committees are going to be functioning and communicating, we can come up with a game plan to disseminate information outside of this committee to the various organizations who already have a public presence in one form or another. The chamber, as an example, has a very robust communication system to its members and a public presence. And we know that there are other organizations within the Pikesville catchment area, the same thing. So we see those committees, I think, working very closely together and having some organization in place, and everybody knows how we're capturing all of those juicy details that the community, businesses, and residents will be interested in. We can get going on that very easily.
Okay. Yeah,
I think you're off to a great, if I could, I think you're off to a great start, Eddie, and you're off to a great start. You've identified the first issue is, what are you trying to promote? That's pretty good. But as far but as far as the funding, just a thought. Larry mentioned the sustainable funding possibilities and ideas. You may want to touch base with what he's talking about. I understand it. Community benefit district, CDMA, revenue sharing. There are a variety of different ways. Again, I use the model of Bethesda. There are a variety of different ways that Bethesda and other communities have gained revenue from kind of already existing pockets, but just redirecting them. And so those few items that Larry had mentioned are certainly worthy of exploring, and you can kind of talk to him and talk to me or whatever you want to do about kind of this funding side of this and the sustainable funding of that. But good work.
Thank you. Thank you. I see two hands up. It's 7:35. I still need time for my announcements to go, but I'll go with who's that? Kristen and then Neville.
Okay, I'll be quick. Great work. You're right. We identify something and like it's good to promote something like an event. So using that Main Street model, you can kind of act like you are Main Street without actually being a Main Street at the moment. So like for us, if we're doing a public art, like if we're working on a mural, we will let you know. You could show updates. That's going on. You could even reach out to businesses. Sometimes Jilly's has a karaoke night or something like that. Or the Pikes Theater has a special movie night. So there might be, if you kind of look into it, there might be some special little events going on that we just got to dig a little, and then you can be the megaphone, and that's all. Yeah.
Is there a central, besides through the chamber, is there a central feeding board of events that are coming to the county in any way?
Not that I know of. I mean, I think it's very, each business is their own little island and they
Right.
have their own little thing going on.
There is, really quick, there is a Baltimore County tourism like Facebook and website, but you sort of self-identify, it's the groups. The county will sometimes look for things to put on there, but also we encourage groups to put stuff on there as well. But that is a source.
Okay.
I wonder if that can be punched up a lot, Michelle. Whereas, I'm old and I remember the Sun papers. I remember the Sun papers had the Weekender section. They published on Thursday or Friday, and they had a whole bunch of different events listed when they had a paper. But I'm wondering if you could kind of look at establishing that, Weekender in Baltimore County, and maybe divide it in geographically. Just a kind of a thought to noodle around about. Heidi, what do you think of that?
Okay.
Heidi, what do you think of that? Because you seem to be into that social media stuff.
I think that it's a great idea. And a more important idea to use resources that are already in place and available. And the county's social media presence would be a beautiful place to start. We really just need a method to solicit that information and have that information submitted. And there does need to be management of whatever platform we're using to disseminate information. Long term, I don't think that it's out of the realm to have some sort of publication, whether it's virtual, so social media wise, whether there are funds to do something different, return to print to disseminate information within the Pikesville community. But I'm very excited. Thank you, Michelle, for reminding us about that platform. That would be a beautiful place to at least start. And really, all we need to do is get people pointed in the right direction. So whatever platforms we're using, we know that we can use organizations like the Chamber. If we know that we can use platforms and existing pages and sites like the county.
1,000 Friends of Pikesville.
Right. It would be easy basically to compile a list of where people should look for information and where businesses should submit that information. If this committee needs to act as a funnel and a primary resource, we could do that. A marketing and branding consultant, if we bring one on board at some stage, would be responsible for that sort of thing.
Okay. All great ideas. Let's, I see Neville and Ruth that 2 minutes, and then I need some other thing which I need a decision from you all. So Neville, go ahead, and then Ruth. Hold on, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah, in the meeting that we had with Kristen and the rest of the group, we discussed the importance of integrating the activities of the Armory with the rest of what's going on in Ricetown Road. There's a tendency to have them as two separate entities, but they need to be tied together. And I'm wondering if marketing can help us in this area of getting an image where the Armory is part of this Pikesville revitalization, that it's integral, that everything is tied together. And how do we present that so that this is believed as as a convincing message that it is all one, that it isn't two entities. We're one entity, and that is the challenge that we're facing at the moment. So how do we do that?
Well,
I wonder if marketing can help us.
That's a good question, and I mean, the Pikesville Foundation is its own. It has its funding, and I understand it's integral, and then you are all working towards the same goal, PrEP or for the foundation. So we can discuss more on that, on how marketing can. I mean, initially I said that there will be an update from the foundation every month. We let's take it from there. Like, let's get the updates and let's see how marketing can roll into that and have how can they promote on what's happening with the foundation. I don't think that would be a right away answer right now, but we will discuss more on that.
Okay.
Yes, Esroth, go ahead.
Yes, quickly, three things. One, Thousand Friends of Pikesville, we have, for Heidi and Ed, we have a public Facebook group. We have grown it. We started with 255 members, and we now have 780 or 777 as of today. It's an active group. People post on it. And events are posted there frequently, lots of neighborhood events. So we should work together because that's already an existing, active, engaged group. And there are also quite a few neighborhood public and private Facebook groups. Colonial Village has a group, Ralston does, Sudbrook Park does, and marketing and promotion would be reaching out, in my opinion, to all of them to post, to be like in clearinghouse, to post activities in all of those platforms. The other thing is design and streetscape. When we talked about integrating all of our branding and signage from Slade Avenue to Old Court Road, you know, obviously including the Armory, it wasn't specified, but that is to include all marketing and promotion. It should be, you know, a branding effort that is uniform and identifiable. And the Armory has always been as far as Thousand Friends go, it's always been totally embedded in the commercial corridor. And I don't see them as separate. I don't think that is a huge challenge. I think it's a total natural that the two, there's not a separation between the Armory and the commercial corridor, I don't think.
Okay, okay. Those are good ideas.
I
Ruth.
amplify
Like,
what Ruth just said. Ruth just
I would
said.
say we're well past like
Right.
the 10 minutes, and I know Josephine still has something she wants to share. So
Yeah, go ahead,
we're
Josephine.
gonna
thank
best
you,
to move
thank
on.
you. Thanks for those ideas, Ruth. And yes, marketing technically they should work with all other groups and all other Facebook presence or social media presence, whatever you have, you go ahead, post on what's happening. And if you need counties help, we can repost, or we can talk more on that. Marketing can, as you work with other groups, we can talk more about that. Okay. I'm skipping all the slides, which you all discussed. I did have slides for all other, for each subcommittees, who's going to talk what. That's done. You guys did a wonderful job. So this is what I want to talk about now. So you might have already heard that the Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD, the state announced their FY 2023 application round for the state revitalization program. They announced it last week on May 12th. And the project portal where you submit the application is open. That was open May 19th. and the state is offering 2 sessions, webinars on the 25th. Those are 2 virtual sessions which they are going to offer to let you know how to submit the applications through the portal. And these applications, what I'm saying is the funding for the community legacy funding, which is 8 million capital, and strategic demolition funds, $9 million. And then you have the project code, and which is 21 million, and you have the Bernie funds, the Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative Funds, which is $12 million, and then the National Capital Strategic Economic Development Funds, which is $7 million. This is all there in the state DHCD webpage, which I can share it with you when I send a summary of what happened in tonight's meeting. And so I'm going to I'm here to tell you, we've been talking to all the groups, informing on these funding, which the state announced. So there is community legacy funding, the $8 million, which the group can apply. As I mentioned before, there is money left from the CIP funds, which is close to 151K. And there are also money left from the county-wide improvement funds, which is 100K. This is something which you all know. So that is something which you already have, which you are trying to work, identify the projects and work on. This is something which is available now, which the state announced. So the community legacy application is open. And if the group can go apply for that. And the application is due July 13th at 3 p.m. That's the deadline. So if you decide to go for it, you have to apply by July 13th.
Got it.
And there is a couple other things I want to let you know, like they are going to give an online webinar on 25th. There is a 10 a.m. session and 1 p.m. session. I'm going to send you all the links. You can go register to listen what the fund, how to apply and how to submit through the portal. So with that said, I do know that there is already funding left, but at the same time, I want to let the group know there is more funding. If you want to go for it. So with that said, I do have Amy Menzel here, who you all know has worked with the Dundalk Renaissance Corporation for years, and who is a pro in applying for all these grants. And she has managed a lot of grants, and she has a lot of experience. She is now on the other side. She's with the county now. So I'm happy to introduce Amy here, because before I turn it over to Amy, I want her to introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about the fiscal agents too, because when I say there is an opportunity for you all to apply for the community legacy funding, the nonprofit organization, somebody has to step up to take a lead to apply for these applications. So it depends on the capacity of the organization, who is going to do it, who's going to lead it, and who has the capability to do it. If there is an organization who can lead and do it, well and do. If not, what can a fiscal agent do to keep this, to get going with the application? At this point, I want Amy Menzer to add more on how a fiscal agent can work, and what can we do? What can the organization do to apply for these funds? Amy?
Okay, thank you. Hi, Neville. I just wanted to acknowledge.
Hello, how you doing?
Neville and I served together on the Neighbor Space Board for a number of years when we were both younger. But you know, I think really, I mean, you have several entities in your committee that it seems to me could apply for funding to pursue projects that are working toward implementing goals of the committee. The nonprofit would be could be the chamber, it could be High. I know High has applied for Bernie funds and community legacy funds in the past. where basically, you guys could identify a project, and if there was some joint agreement and it made sense for that organization, it's kind of like, if there's an organization that mainly focuses on housing, a proposal around housing would make more sense. If there's an organization that focuses more on business development, a proposal around helping the Main Street businesses would make more sense. But I think that's for you all to decide and figure out. And I'm happy to try and help. I'm happy to kind of do some follow-up small discussions with you to figure out if there are entities that are part of this group that want to talk more about that. I'm totally open.
So with that said, I have this question for you. Is it something the group would want to pursue and go for it this year? Have in mind the announcement just came out and the portal is open and the turnaround is really quick. It's July 13th. So if you are going for it, you have to submit the application by July 13th. And the webinar is, yeah.
I can make a suggestion along those lines. I think it is much too complicated to tackle that now. It is not impossible in my view. I'm suggesting, if I could, with maybe Michelle and or Josephine's help, that Larry, I'm going to volunteer people, Larry, Kristen, and perhaps myself or somebody else form a committee to explore what's involved in all that, can essentially answer the question, could we pull it off? And a variety of different what's the word, ammunition that we might have to try to pull that off. Does that sound like a reasonable first step?
I mean, I hear you. This is a lot of work. That's why I'm asking, is it something the group can pull it off? That's the question I'm asking to the group. We can certainly help you in providing information, connecting you with the state, and there is a state project regional manager for each area. So that's what we have been doing with the different groups. So if it is something you want to discuss and you want to meet, maybe the committee chairs want to discuss with your committee, and just the committee chairs, if you want to meet with the county, is it something? That's fine too, because I don't want to push something which you can't. I don't want you to be cornered. At the same time, if you see this as an opportunity, I don't want you to miss that too. So I'm providing this, the department is providing the same information to all the groups. So it's up to the groups to let us know where you stand and if it's something you can do.
I think that
hands up.
Larry's got his hand up.
I'm sorry, I don't find my hand thingy.
Oh, I'm sorry, you were saying, did you recognize my hand or?
Yeah, let me call names like go ahead, Larry, and then Thomas.
Okay, just real quickly, I can't speak to all of the DHCD revitalization program funding, but for Bernie, in Northwest, that's pretty much overseen by Northwest Baltimore Partnership, which collects and vets applications from Northwest Baltimore nonprofits. And then Chai serves as the fiscal agent for the partnership, but we process them all, we manage the grants and everything like that. That's not to say that nonprofits can't apply straight to DHCD. There are 2 cases we know of where they are, but usually they're encouraged to apply through NWBP. We're already, and Michelle Bernstein also serves on the steering committee as well, and some of the folks here on some other committees. But if you'd like to learn more about how we do that process, feel free to reach out to me. We're pretty much already through the phase where we've voted and invited the applications from the organizations that are applying this round. But again, for next year or what have you, happy to share and tell you more about the process and put you on the list for NWBP.
Thanks,
That
Larry.
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense as a vehicle.
Right.
That's for the Bernie grants, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Right. So let's go like Tom, Kristen, Mel. 2 minutes. Oh,
I'm gonna be, this is Tom, I'm gonna be very, very quick.
sure, okay.
I think the timing is incredibly tight for this kind of an organization to move. Having said that, I think the first or parallel step would be for each subcommittee to get together, whether in person or via Zoom, within the next 2 weeks and identify a project, a something that they think would make sense within their purview to work up a proposal around. If we don't have anything, we don't have anything. But before you figure out how you're going to apply, while you figure out how you're going to make an application, you ought to figure out what you're going to apply for and what makes sense to apply for. I'm
Okay.
done.
Okay, thank you. I hear you. But 2 weeks time, like, we would like to know something by Thursday, at least, like, if you're going to apply or not. I know that, I mean, not trying to push anyone. I'm,
That's
like I
possible.
said, I'm giving out the information. It is up to you to decide and let us know.
You would like to know by when? By what? I didn't hear.
By Thursday,
And if we say we'd like to apply and then we say we can't pull this off, then what?
I mean, if you don't apply,
Correct.
you didn't apply. That's it. But
Agreed.
at least if you are
Okay,
working towards it, there will be someone
Yeah.
leading it. You'll have a username, something set
Mhm.
up in the portal, and I can start connecting you with the state. And it's okay if it's a short turnaround. I do understand you're already working on this. You have this on your plate. That's fine too. I'm just asking. I'm just throwing it out there to find out what the group feels. I see a lot of hands now. Okay, Kristen, you're next.
Okay, so as I'm understanding it, just to clarify, the state has, or the county has about 150K allotted for us at this year, at this moment. Now, these grants, if we wanted extra money for a particular project, we could go for them, but we don't have to. It's not necessary. Personally, I'm still working full time and doing this and president of my community association. I don't have the bandwidth to start another committee for grant funding. I mean, as much as I want it and be great, it's also a really tight deadline to get it done and not exactly necessary because we already do have some funding, but maybe something to think about for next year. If someone wants to watch the session to know how to apply, just so they can know what to do for next year. But that's my 2 cents.
I hear you. I hear you. That's totally fine. But we want to hear it from the group. So thanks, Kristen. So Mel, next to you, next Larry, and then I have Jack.
Okay. So I think it's worthy of saying we should try for it, whatever it is. And I think then right away, get a meeting of maybe the subcommittee chairs and kick around process with the help of perhaps Michelle and or you or Amy, just guidance of criteria and what's involved so that we kind of can kick around just the 4 or 5 of us, whether it's worthy pursuing it subsequent to that meeting. So that's kind of, I have a ton of ideas about what some money could be used for. And I'm sure everybody else has their own little idea. But I think maybe for efficiency, if you want my opinion, I think we should explore going for these grants, and pursuant to that, the subcommittee chairs could meet and just kick it around to begin. And if we decide, it's just not going to happen, it's just not possible, then we could drop it.
Okay, I'm hearing all your ideas. Moving on. Who was next?
Jack.
Jack. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. While I understand how short the timeline is, what I don't understand at this point, what it would take to apply. Is this something that's an hour's worth of work or a day's worth of work or a week's worth of work?
I'll let Amy answer that.
it takes a lot of effort to, I mean, the grant application itself is pretty long. It's going to take a decent amount of time to prepare the application, like 20 or 30 hours in addition to, what preparing, what are you doing, figuring that out. So,
Well,
Okay,
it's
so, well,
possible. It does sound possible.
at the same time, though, if we are looking at some potential low-hanging fruit in terms of dollars to be able to spend this year, I think we need to take a hard look at, are there a couple or one or two things that we could go after quickly and see if we can get some money in the Pikesville area?
Does the Armory have, I know you hired a new executive director. Is that someone who could quickly pivot to pay attention to this right away to see whether there's possibly, something, quick and dirty that we could go after?
We'd have to ask. I'd hesitate to say yes at this point on anything like that, because my guess is that the foundation will also be applying for these grants because they're trying to get money as well. So, if that's the case, it could be an easy copy over for another project, or it could be a very difficult second project to take on. And I don't know without asking.
Or perhaps the oversight committee could make a recommendation to the Pikesville Armory Foundation, what their probably desires are relative to these funds and or applying it to the Armory property. It's a pretty perfect tie-in, if you ask me.
And the Armory Foundation is applying for Bernie funding.
Mm-hmm.
The $400,000 from Bernie for the NCO club, is that last year or that's last year?
That's right. They're applying for additional funding.
They're applying for a new round of Bernie funds for another project?
Right, for the park redevelopment in front of the Armory.
Okay, got it. So that's ties in with streetscaping, with things that we're doing already. Okay, well, that's helpful.
Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. So I wouldn't say consensus, or I'm hearing a lot on it's a short turnaround period, and I did hear on Armory Foundation applying and getting the grants. If they do the park in front of the Armory, it is something along the streetscape. So if anything changes, and if you think that you're going for the funds, like I didn't hear along those lines, but if anything changes, email me. But that has to be really, within Thursday. I got to know at least within Thursday. And with that said, I also want to talk about two other things. Let's keep the same, the last Monday of the month, the same time, so that I don't have to go ask for polling again. So let's stick to the same schedule. And with summer coming up, if people are going on vacations in July and August, let me know. If we want to skip in August, that's fine too, but I can email that and get the answers for those things from you all. So before the next meeting, now that you have an idea of how all the subcommittees work, and now that you have narrowed down the goals, please identify the top 2 priority projects. So that'll be really helpful for us to put together a list of two projects from all the groups. So here's the list, the top 10 which we have identified from all, and from that we can narrow down and pick. So that'll be really helpful. So please meet before the June Oversight Committee meeting, and I will send all this information through email as well. So that's all I got for tonight. I know we are half an hour past our scheduled time. Thank you so much for your patience and for all your feedback. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Josephine.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josephine.
Amy, would you like to stay on, chat with you a bit?